About herbs for emotional stress, could be grief, can be an anxiety. So the first one is chamomile, and there's two types of chamomile. There's Roman chamomile and German chamomile. German chamomile is a bit stronger and can bring on menstruation, but both chamomiles are very safe for children, for fractious children, and they're a nice home remedy. They're good for anxiety, and particularly when you have stress in your digestive system. Yeah, it combines really well with lemon balm. So the next plant we're going to talk about is lemon balm. It's very aromatic, and it's got an old-fashioned name that's called thymoleptic. So Melissa's very uplifting, and it mixes well with other teas. And aromatic herbs tend to move chi around, so it helps stop that blockages. It's often used for mania when people have hypothyroid, so it's actually quite calming. It brings energy to the head, but in a positive way. It's a really beautiful tea with chamomile, and thymoleptic means uplifting. The next plant is rose, and I like to use pink roses. If you're using roses for medicine, it's really important that they're aromatic. It's really important that they're not sprayed, so you can't use like roses from like the supermarket. Damask roses are lovely, and they're the archetypal grief medicine. They're used for calming the heart, and prolonged grief and stress affects the heart as well as the lungs. So we often use heart remedies for prolonged stress and grief. Rose is very beautiful for children, adults and elders. It's great in a glycerite. It's great in teas. In teas, it's good for trauma associated with the uterus, and where people have diarrhea through stress. In tinctures and in glycerites, it's good for heartbreak, heartache and grief. It's a very nice instantaneous remedy, whereas some of the other ones are chronic remedies you need to take over time. It's one that I'd often take like a flower remedy when I'm feeling particularly bereft. A remedy called milky oats, and that is what I would call a chronic remedy. And that's something you take regularly for when you're burnt out with stress over a long period of time. It's made with the oats, the wild oats that are not fully developed, but they're still green and pressed out. So that's why they're called milky, because they have like a milky latex. And it's very anxiolytic. It calms anxiety, and it has a nourishing effect on the body and helps promote energy whilst promoting sleep. There's a herb called motherwort, and it's very bitter, and it's nice to use in drop-sized doses for anxiety and depression. Elecampane is known as elfwort, and the root of it's used in herbal medicine for lung complaints and deep lung complaints, often where there's deep mucus in the bottom of the lungs. It's very powerful, kind of drawing out energy and moving chi in the lungs that's stuck with grief, and it's often put in grief mixes. I like to mix it with hawthorn and roses and ginger. So now I'm going to talk about hawthorn, and for trauma and grief, herbalists use the berries and the flowers, and they're both heart protectors. They help calm anxiety, they help blood flow through the heart, and the heart is very linked to our mind and our emotions, and there's something called broken heart syndrome. And I think hawthorn's a nice thing to take even like when you're over 40, just to act as a heart tonic, because it's so nourishing for the heart, and life is just always so stressful. But hawthorn is a remedy that's put into a lot of mixes for heartbreak. It mixes really beautifully with other rose family, like it mixes really well with rose. Another herb is vervain, or it's called verbena as well, but it's not lemon verbena. What's quite interesting is a lot of these plants have like purple flowers, and vervain is very good for people who are overthinking. It's also quite bitter and good for the liver, so it's good for people who need hormone balancing or have digestive issues with stress. There's another herb, and it's an Australian herb called Bobsinia, and it's also called bottle brush, and it's got like kind of long, furry red, bright crimson red, like a bottle brush shape, and that's said to connect people to the spirit world in grief if you need to do that. Mimosa bark is used for where everything's so hopeless you've given up on life, and somehow it manages to bring sparks of joy back into the way you feel. Linden blossom or lime flowers, they're big trees that are in the malva or the ochra family. That's really great for where people have high blood pressure from prolonged stress, and it's really great for palpitations and elevated blood pressure when you're so tense. I'm going to end with flower remedies. What I found with emotional distress is that the energetic medicine is far stronger than other forms of medicine. So I'm going to talk you through a bit of the flower remedies. And flower remedies are medicines that have been picked, have been not touched, but picked like with tweezers, put into spring water and held in the sun for a whole day. And then they're potentized into spirits, like usually brandy. There's also another way of making them. If they're barks and berries, they're boiled, and then that is called potentized, a bit like homeopathy. So I'm going to read you some of the remedies. There's water violet, and that helps you to process grief. There's honeysuckle, is when you're pining for someone, it supports moving on. There's gorse for when all hope is lost. There's olive for when death has come after a long illness or emotional struggle. There's Star of Bethlehem for intense shock and numbness. And in homeopathy, Ignatia is for hysteria and uncontrollable crying. And that's not to say that crying is bad, it's not, but it's to calm someone down if they just can't stop. And also with crying, I think crying is very cathartic. It creates chemicals in the body that help you heal. But if you cry like every day continuously for 2 weeks, it's very emptying, and you need to fill up your vessel and nourish yourself. And herbs like milky oats are brilliant for that. And magnesium muriatanium in homeopathy is really good for extreme anger. I'm just going to read a poem by Langston Hughes, who was born in 1901 to 1967, and it's called Dreams. Hold fast to dreams, for if dreams die, life is a broken-winged bird that cannot fly. Hold fast to dreams, for when dreams go, life is a barren field frozen with snow. Hold fast to dreams, for when dreams go, life is frozen with snow.